Welcome to the Unfiltered Show from the Score Studios. My name's Joseph Casciaro. That's Levi Smith making his Unfiltered Show debut this week.
Yes, sir. Feels good.
And we're here to talk about, not NBA basketball, although we're going to talk about a lot of NBA players, but the Olympic men's basketball tournament, which tips off this weekend, depending on when you're watching this. Probably the most stacked overall field in international basketball history, Olympic basketball history. Obviously, everyone knows there was the Dream Team back in the day. The U.S. has always been stacked. But in terms of just like depth, team by team, this is probably the most stacked international basketball tournament we've ever seen. For anyone that doesn't know the way this tournament works, 12-team tournament broken up into 3 groups. Group stage play, pretty standard if you're into international sports. Round robin, everybody plays everyone in their group once. So you play 3 group games. Top 2 in each group, plus the 2 best third-place winners advance to the quarterfinals. So, you know, no matter who you're a fan of in this tournament, you're looking at a 2/3 chance to make the quarterfinals. 2/3 of the field makes it. And then the way the quarterfinals work is the top 2 first-place teams go into a pot. The third best first-place team and the best second-place team go into a pot. Then the next 2 second-place teams, then the third-place team. So there'll be 4 pots for the quarterfinals. Right. Pot D with the 2 best first-place teams will be drawn against Pot G with the third-place team, so that it's like best versus worst, whatever. Right. And then there's a bracket from there. You'll figure it out as the tournament goes on. Right off the hop, I mean, we know the states are obviously the overwhelming favorites, as they always are in these tournaments. And it's no wonder. I mean, the starters are the starters already, but like, you know, I was in Vegas for that Canada U.S.A. game, and it's like the Canadian starters played well, and they're kind of playing with them. The problem is, no matter who's playing them, then you get to the bench. And this was, first of all, a game before Kevin Durant entered the fray, before Derek White had joined the team, and their bench was already Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis, and Bam Adebayo. And with KD probably going to the starting lineup, you can add Devin Booker to that bench and Derek White. The depth of talent, obviously, unreal. The only team with 12 NBAers on them. But, as we saw this past weekend, in a game against South Sudan, who the States were 43-point favorites against, they almost lost. It came down to the wire because in a one-off, anything really can happen. And in this tournament, to get to the knockout rounds, they only need to lose once. They don't need to be beaten in a series 4-7. So with all that taken into account, the fact that they're overwhelming favorites, but we also know they're beatable, especially in a one-off. Levi, who in this tournament is the biggest threat to the States? Who is most capable of actually slaying the giant?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I've got 2 trains of thoughts. First of all, I think that game against South Sudan, just for the morale of the rest of the field, is huge, seeing that, you know, they can go down to the wire like that. But yeah, there's 2 trains of thoughts. I think when I think of teams who can compete and maybe beat the States, you got talent-wise and you got team-wise. So I think talent-wise, obviously it's Canada. They've got the second most complete roster in the whole tournament, almost all NBAers, which is huge. And they've got some guys who have been in and out, but they've got the most complete team and the best Canadian team we've ever seen. Right? Jamal Murray's playing this Olympics. They've got some new guys in Andrew Nembhard and Trey Lyles. So I think just from a talent standpoint, it's Canada. I wouldn't give them the best chance to beat the States, though, and that's simply because it's FIBA rules. It's Olympic basketball, and I think that always leaves the door slightly open to the European countries who actually grow up playing with these rules. I mean, you look at the NBA right now and the best players in the league, Jokic, Giannis, Luka, all guys who have grown up playing Euro basketball, and all 3 of them have said it's a lot easier to play in the NBA. So because of that, I think from a team standpoint, Serbia and I think France, those are the 2 who have the most complete rosters that have also grown up playing the international style of basketball and stuff. So yeah, those 3 teams, I would say, I think can give USA the best run for their money. I think I'd probably lean Serbia if I had to pick one. But yeah, what do you think?
I'd probably agree. I thought you were going to go Canada, and then I could go Serbia, and I could. But no, I think I'm with you. Look, I think obviously yes, Canada's the second most talented team at this tournament. Yeah. But I mean, you mentioned the European teams being used to the FIBA rules.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's also just that they play together more. Like, The Canadians and the Americans, as mostly NBA guys, they're not playing together that much. Even in terms of like qualifying for these tournaments, sometimes it is like non-NBA, well, a lot of times it's non-NBA players helping them qualify for tournaments, and then all of a sudden all the NBA players get together for the tournament. Yeah. A lot of these European teams, sure, their best players are playing in the NBA, but for the most part, the majority, the core of their teams outside of the superstars are also their same core in qualifying tournaments, in other tournaments. They play together. They know the FIBA rules. And like for anyone watching that's wondering, okay, like how much different is the game? Okay, it's not just that, the 3-point line is closer. There were very fundamental differences. Yeah. There's no defensive three in the key. There is no offensive basket interference. You can pull the ball off the rim. And that's huge. And like you'd think, okay, well, the States have big guys too. They've got Embiid. It's an advantage for them. There's also like a second nature, an instinctual thing where if you're not playing that brand of basketball year round, it takes some getting used to. And the Europeans do have that advantage there in being more familiar with those rules, especially that defensive three in the key thing, man. That's a big difference. Yeah. And you think of a team like France with Wembanyama and Rudy Gobert on the court and no defensive three in the key. Like that is a formidable defensive front court. But anyway, all of which is to say, I'm with you on Serbia in that, look, I still believe they have the best player in the world today, right now, in Nikola Jokic. For sure. I think they have a really cohesive team that plays beautiful basketball, team basketball, plays the right way. France, I think, definitely has a shot being at home with Wemby, with Gobert. I don't love their guard depth.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying.
You're probably counting on a Nando De Colo. And I will say this, for whatever reason, anytime these international basketball tournaments come around, there's always a guy like a Nando De Colo who you remember kind of his name being, in the NBA.
I mean, Evan Fournier, was it the last time that these two teams met? France beat the USA in that first, it wasn't the last time because USA obviously won, but 2020 Olympics, France won the first game. Right. Evan Fournier had early round, a monster game. Yeah. So it's true. But yeah, I agree with you in the guard depth. That was the biggest thing. You have these big guys, but like, you don't really have a guy that can just put the ball in their hands, which is tough to see.
With France. But I mean, and also, listen, like Greece, do I think Greece can win the tournament? Probably not. But even Greece, you have Giannis, right? And in a one game, would I pick anyone to beat the States? No, but like, would I be shocked after what we just saw with South Sudan? Yeah. Would I think it's impossible that a team with Giannis in a 40-minute game, one-off, can beat them? No, it's possible. Germany won the last World Cup, and like you look at their team, they've got the Wagner brothers. Schroeder always shows up for international ball. Yeah. Like this tournament is pretty stacked, man, and the States will not have it easy despite the talent disparity.
Yeah, for sure. I would also say, just in terms of the rules and stuff, like, it is like people underrate how big of an impact it is because you're out there and not everything's natural. You also, I wouldn't be surprised if we see, a big moment in this Olympics, a player tries to call timeout and loses focus. You can't do that in FIBA. But I mean, watching like Joel Embiid, especially playing in these friendlies and stuff, he's like foul baiting, and there was a time I can't remember if it was Canada or a game later. Ball went up and he was waiting for it to come down off the rim. Like he didn't get up there and grab it. So you're not in that like headspace really. You're playing different rules and stuff. So those little things I think are enough especially in a 40-minute game where like a big run from one of these other countries could actually win the game.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, I think for sure it's definitely, even with how good USA is, I think it's going to be the most competitive we've ever seen. It's the best field for sure ever in the Olympics. I'm confident saying that. But I think the rules and the cohesiveness is a big thing because USA used to mandate, you had to be there for 3 years before the Olympics. You had to play in the FIBA World Cup, and then they had like a camp the year after. Then you could go to the Olympics, and they've just gotten rid of that because they think they want more talent and better players, but you lose a lot of the chemistry. So it's going to be interesting.
And with respect to Embiid, I mean, we've seen it in a lot of the exhibition games. Again, even that first game against Canada that I was there for, it wasn't even just the rules, which definitely were playing a part, but it was also that like this team is so stacked with backcourt talent, wing talent, just overall talent. Yeah, they do not ever need to feel like they're just going to dump it into the post to Embiid and force feed Embiid.
Yeah, it's true.
And if he's not getting his post-ups, like obviously, look, he can still dominate on the defensive end. He can dominate the glass. But if he's not getting his post-ups and the creation's coming from elsewhere, it is a bit of a clunky fit.
Yeah.
Because the States have the athleticism advantage. They have the talent advantage. They want to get out and run. They want to push the pace. They want more possessions. Well, it's hard to do that with Embiid on the court, but if you're not force feeding him in the offensive end, you're not really getting the benefits of him. I know we're getting a little off topic here, but I think Anthony Davis is starting for the U.S. by the time we get to the gold medal game. I'll just say that.
I completely agree. And he's used to it. He's been playing in the Olympics for long enough, so I completely agree. Also, something even more off topic, but still about Joel Embiid. So he had French citizenship, right?
Well, yeah. So he was Cameroon born with French citizenship, and then I think last year, a couple years ago, got American citizenship. So he's now a dual French and American citizen, and was Cameroon born. Now, obviously, Cameroon didn't qualify for the Olympics, but he could have.
It was recent news when he got the call that he could play for USA, and man, just imagining a French team with him on it also. It's hard to get French.
Joel Embiid at small forward.
Be
a power forward.
For the sake of just basketball fans everywhere getting to see that.
Would have been insane.
Would have been awesome.
Yeah.
But,
all right, we both mentioned Canada being the second most talented team in this group, and if you're just going by talent, being the biggest threat to the U.S. We had Nick Stauskas on this show a few weeks back and asked him this question. I think we can get into it ourselves now. What a realistic expectation for Canada is. They won bronze at the FIBA World Cup. They beat the U.S. in the bronze medal game. Obviously, more like the U.S. B or C team, if we're being honest. But again, Canada bringing the best team they've ever brought to an international basketball tournament. So, what do you see as not just your prediction for them, but what you think should be a realistic expectation for this team?
Yeah, it's tricky because this team on paper is awesome, but you look at the history of Canada, this is their first Olympics since 2000. They have one medal in the Olympics, and it was 1936 they won the silver. So you want to say, it's finals or bust, but this is new territory for them, so I'm not going to put all of that pressure on them yet. And it's a shame, Andrew Wiggins got held back. They're still missing a couple guys, Benedict Mather and Zach Edey, who I think next time the Olympics come around, they'll be contributors. So we haven't completely seen the very best that we can right now. But with that being said, obviously the best Canadian team ever fielded for Olympics. I think a medal is a very satisfactory floor. I think bronze, I will be completely happy if they leave the Olympics with bronze. You want to say silver because of how good this team is on paper, but you just don't know. It's not only are they not as good as the Americans, but they fall under that umbrella of not growing up playing by the international rules. It's like a USA light team almost, as I would think of it. They have that to their disadvantage as well. So I think, my expectation would be the bronze. I think they can definitely, for the sake of basketball and being a Canadian, I would love to see that America-Canada game in the finals. It'd be so awesome to watch. But yeah, I would say the bronze. And I think in terms of how they're going to get there, Jamal Murray is going to be big. They might have the best backcourt. I'm okay saying that they
their
might
guard
have.
and wing depth is fine.
Yeah, the wing depth especially. But honestly, the guy that I think that they're going to need to rely on the most, they have SGA, they have Jamal Murray, Dylan Brooks. That's when I was looking over this roster, looking at what they've done. He had 39 in the bronze medal game, averaged 16. He was their second leading scorer, and he's such a pest. So as long as he can come to play, I'm confident that they can at least find a bronze medal.
Yeah, and I think guard depth, wing depth, whether you look at the SGA Murray backcourt, like you said, arguably the best backcourt in this tournament. You've got Dort and Brooks as your your defensive pests, your wing stoppers that you can put on a Tatum, on a LeBron, on an Ant, whoever. That is an incredible foursome for international ball. They've got Nembhard off the bench. They've got even Olynyk with international experience. But the problem I think with this team in terms of if I'm looking at one flaw is I don't think they have that no-brainer big man. I think that's where they might struggle. And again, in a tournament where teams have the big man in the paint, you can grab balls off the rim. You want a more dominant big man. And all due respect to guys like Kelly Olynyk and Dwight Powell, who always show up for their country, played plenty of FIBA ball internationally, they're not quite up to par with the Embiid, AD, Bam trio, with Jokic, with, a Giannis if he's playing kind of like a point center for Greece. Obviously, we mentioned France with Wemby and Gobert, and I think that might be, if there's an Achilles heel here that sinks this team, that might be it. And also, we had put up the three groups there, and I talked about how stacked this tournament is. a lot of it is matchup dependent, and it's the path you take to get there, right? Like, if all things are equal and you just ask me how things should finish, here are 12 teams, how should they finish? I would say Canada should finish second. They should be the silver medalist. But it doesn't always work out like that. Canada's got a pretty tough group. Like, Spain is not what they once were, but even Greece, who had to qualify late, they still have Giannis. That's Canada's first game.
Yeah.
Australia's got a lot of NBA talent and are a really good team. Spain, again, this is probably the worst Spain team I've seen bring to a tournament in a long time, but they know how to play together. They're not easy. It's going to be a grimy game. Yeah. And so the one thing going against Canada is they do have a tougher group. And if you remember when I was talking about the tournament format earlier, there's going to be 3 first-place teams at the end from each group, right?
Right.
But the top 2 of them go into one pot. And those 2 teams are guaranteed to not meet until the final if they win out.
Yeah.
But if, say, Canada is the 3rd best group winner, and you assume that the States is going to be one of the top 2 by point differential or whatever, then all of a sudden now your path with the States, it's a collision course maybe in the semis.
Yeah.
And that changes everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Completely.
So the way I look at it is, can Canada actually win the whole tournament? Yes. Should they win silver? Probably. But they have to take care of business from the jump in the group stage if they want to give themselves the clearest path, because you do not want to play the States before you have to.
Yeah.
And, the ultimate failure in this tournament for Canada would be not making the semis, in my opinion.
I agree.
If they somehow don't make it out of the group or lose in the quarters, given the talent, that's a failure.
Yeah.
They make the semis, lose a hard-fought game to Canada or France or Serbia, even Germany, end up in a position to win bronze, that's fine. People, I think, will accept that depending on who they lose to in the semis.
Yeah.
But again, it all comes down to they got to take care of business. They can't mess around in the group stage, end up barely scraping by, draw the States early. Although, who knows, maybe with Canada's luck, they dominate the group stage and the States falter and they somehow end up in the same side of the bracket. Anyway, okay, we've talked about the States. We've talked about Canada. We've mentioned some teams that could give them trouble. Serbia, France. Like I said, Germany won the World Cup. Greece. It's a lot of teams there. Obviously, only 3 medals up for grabs. And there's a bunch of teams we have. Again, I'm not saying they're a medal contender, but South Sudan did just almost pull off the biggest upset probably in basketball history.
Yeah.
They were 43-point underdogs.
Yeah, seriously.
There's teams up and down here that have a chance. So 2.5 weeks from now, who are we looking at standing on that podium? Give me your gold, silver, bronze.
Yeah, I think obviously I'm not going to be Mr. Different and try and not take the States. I think obviously they are overwhelming favorites. So I think they're the gold medal shoe-in. Man, I can't. I don't want to do it yet. I'm going to say Serbia for the silver and Canada for the bronze. Although it's tricky, though, because I think one of these one of these European teams, France, Germany, the Germans are, despite winning the World Cup last year, still underrated. They have Daniel Dice playing the 4 because they have this monster guy playing the center.
Yeah. The Wagner brothers again.
Wagner's and Dennis Schroeder is one of those guys. He's kind of like Patty Mills is for Australia, where you get to the international stage and he's just different. Yep. He's just awesome. So I definitely wouldn't overlook the Germans, but who else? In Australia, honestly,
they're deep with NBA talent, and
they are. They lost to the States by 6 in a warm up not too long ago. They've got kind of the formula that Canada has with these wings that can guard basically 3-and-D guys with Dante Exum, Josh Green. They've got Joe Ingles. He's old.
Jingle and Joe will figure it out, man. Again, those old guys, international experience.
Yeah,
they'll ball out in the Olympics.
Exactly. And I will say, no better stage for a guy who has the Josh Giddey play style, where he is not flashy by any means. He is not quick, but he will be I think a star of this tournament. Just his play style is so suited well for the international stage.
Rubio-esque.
Yes, exactly. Rubio-esque. Kind of honestly, Luka, who dominated the last time that Slovenia was here, putting up triple-doubles and stuff. So I think Australia definitely don't sleep on. I'm not ready to put them into the podium conversation yet, nor am I with France or Germany. But yeah, it's by far the most competitive we'll see even with USA, but I think after USA, we've got like a collection of 5 or 6 teams that all have NBA guys. Even like, you look lower into the teams that are not supposed to do as well, like a Japan or something. All of these teams now have NBA players.
Like Watanabe and
Hachimura, yeah, exactly. And we've never seen that before. They also have, I need to give a shout to Kisei Tominaga. He's going to be playing for them, so that'll be fun to watch. But yeah, I know I keep getting off track, but I'm just so excited. I'm so excited for the competitive nature of this. It's going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in anticlimactic fashion, we have the same podium.
Yeah.
I've got USA, Serbia, Canada. I really wanted to go France for silver, but it's like that guard depth that I mentioned already is like if you gave them one like really good guard, doesn't even have to be an NBA talent. Just one where I was like, oh, this guy's gonna have a really good tournament combined with the two, the Twin Towers at home. I'd be like, they're in. They're going to the gold medal game. They're gonna be the team that could push the States. But that guard depth does worry me. And like I said, Jokic with a really cohesive, well-playing team around him, gets up threes around it. Like that team's gonna be tough to beat. Mm-hmm. And again, my worry with Canada, I would love to say they're going to be in the gold medal game. I'd love to say they're going to win the tournament. Full disclosure, we're sitting here in Toronto. I want them to. Spoiler alert. But I'm so worried about the way the groups broke out and just whether they dominate enough in the group stage to avoid the States. That's my only concern. Yeah. And that's why I've got them in the bronze medal game, because I have them losing to the States in the semis. That's the only reason why. So U.S., Serbia, Canada, both of our podiums.
Same thing.
Real quick, before we get out of here, give me an MVP of the tournament.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier. It's tough because obviously you stick with the States. There's so many guys. I think that, he's got something to prove. He's making his Olympic debut. I would not be shocked to see Steph Curry win the MVP here. Just his style of play, he can just pop off in a couple games and put up some massive numbers. And the thing with the Olympics too is massive numbers is not 50 balls or even 40 balls. Steph Curry goes off for 27, and people are like, "Holy, this guy's the MVP here." So I think he's probably my pick from the States, to be honest, because everyone else is just going to do their job and be so similar. Yeah. Outside of the States, if we want to look at a Cinderella run, outside of, I'd say, Jokic too, because that Serbia team is good and he's the best player on the planet. Victor Wembanyama, I can't give him a ceiling. He's so good, and there's still so much we have to see from him. And if France can have a run, it's going to be him being the man and doing everything. So that would be my kind of far-fetched, obviously, as a player. It's not far-fetched, but just France is going to have some success for him to be the guy. But, I mean, talk about a perfect opportunity for him to step it up even further and really cement himself as one of the best, prospects and phenoms that we've seen. So I wouldn't mind seeing that for the storyline. Victor Wembanyama at home goes on a crazy run, puts up MVP numbers. I think he could get it done.
Yeah, and listen, if Victor Wembanyama ends up being the best player in this tournament, it might not matter that Nando De Colo's their best card. They might be fine anyway. I'm going to go with Jokic just because, look, I think it would be a great story if LeBron, LeBron just dominates the tournament. He's now the flag bearer for Team USA, his last Olympics. We know what he means to basketball and the sports world in general. The problem with Team USA, if you're looking at like an MVP, is they're so talented and the scoring and the stat, like just everything is so spread out. Like even if you've looked in these exhibition games, sure, LeBron saved them against South Sudan, but I don't want to say he's coasted, but he knows what he has to do, and he knows, especially at this stage of his career, when he needs to turn it on and when he can coast a bit, let others do some of the work. So I just don't think he'll be prolific enough. I don't think anyone on this U.S. team is going to be prolific enough with that depth of talent to like be the guy where you're looking at it at the end of the tournament and be like, oh, this guy dominated the tournament. He was the one-man show. Jokic and Serbia, as good as that team around him is, as cohesive as they are, as I've mentioned 20 times now, it is still his team. And I think if they go as far as I think they will, which to me is the gold medal game, with him being so much better than everyone on the team, the best player in the world, I just think by the end of the tournament, he'll be the guy that we say he had the best individual tournament. And outside of that, I'll say, listen, SGA, man. Like, he was great in the FIBA World Cup. For everything I said about Canada, their tough path and how, bronze might be the where it ends up here. SGA is very capable of being the best player in this tournament. He really is. Like, he's a top 5 player in the world right now. If you look at the last 2 NBA years, just really entering his prime, wants it. He's hungry. Like, I would not be shocked if we're eating our words here in 2.5 weeks. Happily so.
Yeah.
About how SGA was just the best player in this tournament. Canada made good on the promise of this talent, finally coming together and walk away with a gold or silver. Like, it's possible.
Yeah.
But,
I will say it's funny, we are sitting here in Toronto, Canada, first time having a great roster. We barely talked about SGA and his upside and stuff, but it's true. It's true. He is so good, and so we should give him his flowers, so we don't look too bad if he has a stellar tournament down the road, because he can do that too.
Yeah. Absolutely. They're capable. Plenty of teams, plenty of players in this tournament capable. We'll see if any of them can take down the stage or if they march to another gold. Obviously, the U.S. has won every gold medal since NBA players started competing, except for 2004.
Yeah.
When Argentina won it. Maybe there's a Argentina-like team out there, and we'll see what happens. But have fun watching the Olympic tournament over the next couple of weeks. I know we will. We will definitely be back, or at least I will. Maybe Levi, maybe someone else. We'll keep a rotating cast here. Yeah. It's always fun. And we'll talk about it at some point during the Olympics, after the Olympics. Stay tuned for all that. Make sure you're watching all of our content on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, for Levi Smith, I'm Joseph Casciaro. This has been The Unfiltered Show.